Okay, welcome back. Early January, then 1856. We passed 10. I did check on the last recording, and even though I fat fingered the button, it looked like it all went together nicely. Now we left off with Omar Pasha in Sarajevo, set to a defensive posture because of the difficult kind of march from Zvornik. There was a large Austrian force also in Sarajevo, and there was a significant engagement, and once again a sensational victory for us in the field against a force slightly smaller than ours, but we inflicted 42,000 casualties, destroyed 4 elements, 2 at range, 2 assault casualties. We took 3,600 prisoners. We suffered, I think that looks like 17,000 of our own casualties, and yeah, another sensational victory. Now, that's all well and good, and we've taken Sarajevo back. That's important, but we're going to start having a think about what we're going to do with this war, I think, this year going into the spring. The reason being is we want to try and seize this moment a little bit. The real advantage we have over the Austrians, I suspect, is just more experienced officers, particularly Omar Pasha. Bear in mind, he didn't start the game as a sensational. In January 1850, he wasn't a sensational commander. He had pretty good stats, he had good characteristics that meant he was likely to do well in battles. But he was kind of very much made into a great commander based on some amazing actions. And a similar kind of thing is gradually happening to Hussein Avni. Again, he's got really good characteristics and he's well placed to be a really first-rate general. Sort of, possibly even at some point on the same level of Omar Pasha. But Austrian generals are, for the most part, incredibly inexperienced. If we look at their stats in battles, they're very poor. I thought they'd be much better than they were. We've only really confronted 2 or 3 of their generals, and there are others. There's, for example, a new general that I've spotted, Edvard von Klamgas. He was a great general of the era, so we need to keep an eye on him. His stats don't look especially remarkable, but maybe he was a general that was kind of maged, that was forged in the white heat of battle. But anyway, we have this kind of early advantage, and we want to make the most of it. We also want to make the most of the fact that the Austrians are having a tough time in Italy. That won't last forever. So to that end, we're going to begin to prepare for a large invasion of Austria. Hussein Avni is going to move up to Sava. It's going to take him 3 days. And then we're going to sit tight, maybe wait for a slight improvement in weather. And the plan is going to be to conduct an offensive through Slavonian, into Pécs and Buda. We're going to take Budapest, basically, cross the Danube and position ourselves within striking distance of Vienna. It's a pretty bold move, but there's another reason that I think we have to do this. One of the issues we had is, of course, we had a war that lasted nearly 2 years against Russia, and after that our national morale began to gradually recover, but we were compelled to enter into a war against Venezuela because of the guarantee that we'd given the British. If we hadn't done that, we'd have lost a lot of prestige. We would have lost, a lot of good faith or goodwill in London, and as such, we had to go to war with Venezuela. It was a pretty pointless war. We conducted a small expedition, which was fairly successful, but of course it took a couple of months, and then immediately on the back of that, Austria declared war. So it means that we've almost had uninterrupted war for a number of years. So we start the war with a fairly low national morale. Now, Austria's national morale is quite high. Despite having lost battles, it's not suffered significantly too much its national morale at this stage. That will eventually begin to go down. It looks like they've lost Milan. I think that's a fairly significant development. So their national morale will begin to sink. But what we want to do really is to try and hit them really hard early on, impact their national morale, show our population. This is being, a lot of these operations are being driven a little bit. Well, for one, utilize our advantages early on, because the longer we fight the Austrians, the more capable their commanders will become, the more familiar they'll become with organizing large pitched battles, and we'll begin to lose our edge. Austria is also a much more industrially developed nation than we, and the longer we fight the war, again, it's going to become more and more difficult. They'll be able to replace their losses more readily, raise new units, and this sort of thing. So we want to try and seize the advantage as early as possible. We don't want to do anything too crazy right away, but we've got to get Hussein Avni in place at Sava, and then we're going to begin to prepare possibly a 2-pronged stroke. We'll move him and Abdul Karim Nadir, if you like, the 2nd and 3rd armies, simultaneously through Slavonian. One will hook right to Pécs, one will move to Buda, either side of the of the Danube, and then again occupy both sides of the Danube, if you like, take Budapest and then move on Vienna. That's going to be our plan. Now, the Austrians have gotten a little bit slack. They haven't fortified their towns, which is interesting. And their main army, having just been defeated at Sarajevo, has fallen back into Dalmatia. That won't always be the case. There's a good chance that force will move round. If it does, we'll get Omar Pasha in the show as well. We'll kind of move him up. And the idea is to use the kind of, I think at the moment, a good amount of force superiority that we have. We've got as many, if not slightly more troops than the Austrians in theatre. And again, we want to make the most of that early on. But so that's going to be the plan. To that end, we're going to bring Osman as a kind of reserve force into Zvornik, just to kind of guard the Zvornik gap. We're going to release some Bashi bazooks, some irregulars from Larissa and Janina. We're going to move them up into Albania just to guard the Montenegrin border. We've got a cavalry brigade here and another cavalry brigade. In fact, we'll keep this cavalry brigade. No, we'll move the cavalry. We'll move one of the cavalry brigades up for the time being into Zvornik. That's going to be the plan on the Western Front. It's going to be a big, bold, kind of super aggressive move. We want to seize the initiative. Really as well, and yeah, the violence of action, aggression, speed, maneuverability, and these two commanders, Abdul Karim and Hussein Abni, are both fast movers. They can move their forces very, very quickly, and we want to use that and surprise the Austrians as best we can. So that's going to be the plan in the West. In terms of military activity, that's pretty much it. We'll have a quick look at Aden, check how the kind of colonial conflict is running. No major issues there, so we can see now that a Yemeni column has moved into place in Hadramut. I've got a pretty good guess where that's going to be heading, probably towards Sana. To that end, we're going to move our forces into Taiz. We're set to an offensive posture and all-out attack, and we're going to hold the kind of central ground, the highlands, if you like, at Taiz, and position ourselves to sort of lift any kind of siege that the Yemenis try to kind of conduct at Sana, which I suspect they will be doing. Luckily, we managed to buy ourselves enough time to get a trade post and military outpost underway, and that's an important development. And it increasingly feels like we're securing the western part of this province now. We're militarily beginning to pacify the western part of this province. Now, I won't speak too soon because this is a volatile region, but we have missions in Aden and one being built in Sana also. How long will it take them to actually go all the way? 22 days. We won't do that just yet. Yeah, and we want to get these missions built as well because they will gradually, over a long period of time, pacify the region as well. As I mentioned in the last video, we have a small colonial revolt in Palestine. This looks like a very small column. We're landing a brigade of infantry, which we released from Benghazi. That is due to make land in 3 days, and we'll look to engage the kind of the brigands that are besieging Jerusalem, lift the siege and deal with that. That's it for military affairs, I think. We'll quickly click through the reports, make sure there's nothing that I've missed. We're going to keep the Imperial fleet in place for the time being in the Northern Adriatic, and yeah, and we're going to keep the raiding fleet also in place for another fortnight, I think, and then we'll bring the ships home and begin some kind of reorganization, let them go back out in the spring. That's it. Economically, not a terrible round. Consistent sort of domestic market sales, 62 units of goods for 195. Exports, again, a little bit down very generally. That was the case kind of before the war. I think that's just a little bit of a kind of trend, market trend, if you like. We'll keep an eye on that. That's nothing to be too worried about, but we're still getting good kind of good private capital returns every fortnight, and from our transactions we're getting really nice state revenue through now as well. We've got really good amounts of state revenue. We'll begin to think of some projects for what we can spend that on. I think the next thing we're going to be looking at is probably an education program to try and increase literacy in the country. That's it for now then. Economically, nothing else to report. Nothing else to report in terms of foreign policy. So I'm going to put you on pause. Try not to hit 2 keys at the same time. And we'll return in late January. See you on the other side. Okay, welcome back. Late January then. No significant engagement, but there have been some interesting developments. The large Austrian force that was based in Dalmatia appears to have split. You see it? See what I did there? Appears to have split and headed north And I think that they're breaking off to try and stabilise the situation in Italy, which is getting really out of hand. They've lost Milan. It looks like they've lost Friuli. It's getting really dicey for them in Italy. So they've broken off a force, and they're using kind of this army really as a holding force to try and kind of keep us, I suppose, kind of keep us contained. They've scattered some smaller forces around, kind of set a cordon up really around Bosnia. But we have large forces in place, and they are ready to move. And I think now is our moment. If we don't do this now, we'll be kind of really sorry later on. The offensive, the first large-scale Ottoman invasion of the Austrian Empire, probably in a century, I reckon. I think we're going to make a play directly for Vienna. It seems crazy. It's through some pretty heavy weather. But Hussein Avni is a fast mover. His forces are well organised. We'll set to an offensive posture, and we'll move all the way up. That's a 13-day march. He's going to be joined, or supported really, by Abdul Karim Nadir. He's going to move through Slavonian and then secure. We're just going to focus on, I think, the kind of west bank of the Danube for the time being. And he's going to assault Budapest. So we're going to look to move against Budapest and Vienna in one fell swoop. Now, whether this comes off or not, I don't know. But he gets there in 10 days. That means that by the time Hussein Avni gets to Vienna, he'll be in a position to provide some support. It's a crazy move, this, but I'm thinking let's do something rash. We're in a really strong position. If this goes horribly wrong, all that's going to really happen is we'll fall back into kind of Bosnia. We've still got Omar Pasha's force securing the centre at Sarajevo, and let's go for broke. Let's hammer north. We're going to use Hussein Avni. We're going to use Omar Pasha, I think, to conduct a kind of diversionary attack into Bihać or Bihać possibly, and then into the Dalmatian. Oh, that's a shame. That'll take 20 days. I thought we could do that in one fell swoop. They don't have any mobile forces. They do have mobile forces here, however. We have a cavalry division that's going to be there. How long would it take him just to move? 11 days. See, that is also a victory location on the Dalmatian coast. I think we do it. If this force moves into Sarajevo, it's just a brigade. In the last analysis, it can be brushed aside. This force can't retreat into Sarajevo. This force might retreat into Bosnia, Bihać, which could be tricky. But a diversionary attack, I think, in the opposite direction, makes a move against Dalmatia. That's also a victory location. If everything goes perfectly, we take Dalmatia, Budapest, and Vienna. And it's a very aggressive move, but we've got nearly 300,000 troops. We've got lots of supplies built up. Our forces are in good condition, and we have defeated the Austrians in the field a number of times. So, yeah, we're going to do it. Balls to the wall. The most aggressive. I think this is the most aggressive move that we could possibly make. But yeah, the idea is catch them off guard, catch them flat-footed, catch them while they're tied up in Italy, catch them while we have all these advantages over them early on in the war, catch them whilst we have that force concentration, most of our field army based in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Seize the moment now, sort of thing. So yeah, let's do this. So that's going to be the moves in the west. It's hugely risky. It's either going to completely be utterly rubbish and boring. Of course, these assaults may not come off. If the resistance in Slavonia is tough, and we're engaging a force about half the size of ours, commanded by Mitrovic. We don't know what forces are in the rear. There could be an Austrian army in Budapest or Vienna. We don't know. But we're going to go for it. We've got two armies. We've got two very capable, experienced commanders. They're fast movers. They can move really, really quickly. They're going to be supporting each other most of the way. And then Hussein Avni is going to press on to Vienna itself. So let's see if this happens. Let's see if this comes off. We're going to bring the fleet back now from the Gulf of Venice. And we're also going to be the raiding fleet back from the Mediterranean trade box. They've kind of done what they needed to do. Excuse me. So a victory against the kind of insurgents then at Jerusalem. Not quite as significant a victory as we'd have liked, but we've got a force in place now. We're going to hold on the offensive, and we'll be looking to engage them again and to sort of stabilize that region. So we're still activated in Aden. Zarif Pasha he's in Taiz. 11-day march. More forces have appeared. Wonderful. Yeah, let's do it. Let's look to lift the siege on Sana'a as quickly as possible, not least because we want to get a mission built as quickly as possible. And if we leave it too long, that mission that won't happen. So yeah, okay, that's it. A lot of anticipation. This is a real gamble, but the other thing that's driving this, of course, is national morale. We're down to 83. It's gradually atrophying. Our war weariness was offset on this particular occasion by will to fight and national resilience, but that doesn't happen every time. The Austrians, it looks like they've lost 4 national morale points since early January, so they are starting to kind of suffer now. Domestically, they're starting to feel the kind of effects of the war, which is not going very well for them. They've been kind of caught on 2 fronts, and it's really good that Piedmont Sardinia have done as well as they have. I thought they were going to get mauled. I thought that by now, and bear in mind the war started in May, last year. I thought that they'd be out of the count for now, by now, but no, absolutely not. So, is this an Italian province now? What's going on here? At war with 2 Sicilies. I think these rebels are Italian loyalists, hence why it's comes to the colour of Italy. Interesting. It's a sort of dynamic feature, I suppose, that captures the sort of unification process. Okay, that's it. Our economy has been set, I think. I'll double check that. I'm not sure if that is the case, or whether I'm imagining that. In terms of domestic consumption, 63 goods for 202. That's fine. 45 merchandise is for just under 120, and that's I would say that's fairly stable. No major kind of problem with the economy there. Okay, yeah, so I didn't set the economy. Let's get our kind of exports set. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, that's fine. That's close enough for government work. No problems there. Inflation's still sitting at 3%, and we've got activation set for the time being. Let's quickly check, however. It doesn't take very long, but yeah, wastages and corruption doesn't take long at all. Okay, we'll deactivate them. Okay, fine. We are seeing a kind of demographic expansion now a little bit on the basis of economic development. So we can see population increase at Agosta, Antalya, and Ankara, resulting in sort of the towns becoming slightly larger. In the case of Agosta, a town being founded. So yeah, pretty rapid sort of population growth now, especially focused around Constantinople, Smyrna, Sinop, these kinds of places. And we can't be too far off now. 90 days. No, not 90 days. 75 days until our first section of railway is complete. And that's going to be Constantinople, and that's definitely going to place us on the map as an industrial power. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, we're going to pass turn. And yeah, fingers tightly crossed. I don't think I've ever wanted something to come off as much as I do now. If this comes off, it will be sensational stuff. It really will. It'll be wonderful. So yeah, if we manage to take Vienna, it's kind of seizing a moment of weakness by the Austrians, really. But if it's a calamitous defeat, okay, we've learned our lesson. But it just feels like we're winning in the field. All of our commands are in good shape. Okay, Omar Pasha could probably do with a little bit longer to recover and organise his force and receive replacements, but the Austrian forces that he's going up against, as far as we can see, are very small, and what it looks like is most of the Austrian army is kind of concentrated in northern Italy right now. So yeah, let's do this. The ram has touched the wall, etc. Okay, I'm going to put you on pause and pass the turn, and I shall see you in early Feb. Okay, welcome back, and I think we can safely say that that was a bit of a reality check. Yeah, it didn't go quite the way planned. Let's have a look at some of the details. I mean, our forces didn't get beyond Slavonian. What was really curious also is that it appeared that Abdul Karim Nadir's force was somehow defeated in detail. Perhaps it was to do with the river crossing. I don't know. They both had kind of... okay, so one had a pioneer regiment and one didn't. Okay, I think that's probably why. Anyway, it was an absolute mess, bloodbath. So, if we have a look at the main battle at Slavonian then, 2 national morale points lost, the exact opposite of what we were looking for. 43,000 casualties, 15,000 casualties for their part. They took 2,400 prisoners, and yeah, we lose kind of 3 elements that will have to be reconstructed. Now, in this report, it suggests that both armies were combined. That doesn't really seem to have been the case when the report actually came through. When I watched it happen live, it just looked like there was one army. Maybe at the very end, I don't know. Hussein Avni's force came into play. I mean, the battle only lasted for kind of 2 rounds. It's a very quick, very, very nasty kind of defeat, real bloody nose. I mean, we've won a number of really big victories in the field where we've inflicted similar casualties on the Austrians. They do seem to have a capacity to replace those losses very well indeed. But yeah, very messy, very, very messy. We've got to just try and make the best of the situation now, get back across the river, across the Sava. Abdul Karim Nadir is going to take him 12 days. He's set to immediately retreat if engaged, and Hussein Avni is set to it's just set to evade combat. In fact, we won't do that. We won't have him set to evade combat because if Abdul Karim Nadir's forces engaged, we want Hussein Avni ready to support him. Hussein Avni's force is completely untouched by that action. So yeah, that's the chaos of warfare. Like it sort of just doesn't happen like that. But I was convinced that with we outnumbered the Austrian forces 2-1 in Slavonian, and once this force was defeated, we could maybe brush it aside. We thought there'd be a fairly big battle, but there's a good chance they could have withdrawn after 20,000 casualties, something like that. My thinking is they'd probably fall back, and yeah, we could kind of exploit that straight away, sort of thing. I mean, it would have been best case scenario that we got to Vienna. Of course, is ETA 13 days on the basis of an uninterrupted march. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened, but we might have got there on day 15, for example. But anyway, didn't even get into southern Hungary. So yeah, stone cold reality check, and not good news. So we lose 2 national morale points. We regain 1, however, for the capture of Split, and yeah, we incidentally also gain a partially constructed scouting squadron, which is rather strange. I think we're going to instantly disband that force. We'll destroy that and get any kind of raw materials we can from it. We're now going to pull back to Sarajevo, just because we want to make sure that this is stabilized. We don't want the Austrians to exploit this in any way and pour into Bosnia. So this defeat was fairly severe, and Omar Pasha's force is now a bit worse for wear. It's taken some casualties. It's quite disorganized. So we're going to move back into the center, consolidate our position. Probably now we won't be looking to move until spring. I think late March, early April, something like that, for another attempt at an attack. And probably we'll do something a bit different this time. But yeah, the key thing I think is if we hold on the defensive in Bosnia for the time being, recover our position. But yeah, very disappointing result. And I thought that would be a comfortable victory. Abdul Karim Nadir, to be fair, is not the best offensive commander. Hussein Avni is a little bit better. Abdul Karim Nadir is senior to Hussein Avni, however, so he was always going to get command of that situation. Probably would have been best to have used a most talented general in that case and used someone like Abdul Karim Nadir to secure Split. But anyway, we did what we did, and we'll have to kind of next time we'll have to sort of do it different. Definitely got my eye on Kataro as well. Might be worth besieging that fortress at some point, just holding one of our forces there. And yeah, so yeah, disappointing result. First big defeat of the war after what has been a year of almost uninterrupted victory. Incidentally, I seem to have fat-fingered the F9 again. I really hope that this is actually recording, because the plan is to try and pass through another couple of turns. It'd be really awful to kind of get to March and have to deliver a really long report back on this defeat. But anyway, beyond the big engagements then, let's have a look at the landing in Jerusalem. Well, the landing already happened. We continue to engage the enemy force, whittling it down piece by piece. We're going to stay on the offensive. It's been successful. 2 engagements, inflicting similar kind of casualties that what we're taking. And the idea is just to kind of whittle that force down, and eventually we should have that situation dealt with. There were 2 engagements of Split, or Spalato, Dalmatia, incidentally. And so, yeah, it took 2 rounds of combat for Omar Pasha to kind of deal with the garrison there, but that garrison was completely destroyed. And, yeah, we engaged the Yemenis at Sana, inflicted, shed under 3,000 casualties, took 2,000 prisoners, lost 400 men. That's really good. Destroyed 2 elements. They still have their force in play. They're holding tight. Our force is quite badly disorganized. My thinking is we're going to sit on the defensive this time for the time being. Just try and kind of secure the ground around the city. It's not under siege anymore, and to sort of clear the area when it's most advantageous to us. What forces do they have there? We've got good firepower. You know what the hell? We do outnumber them, I think. Let's double check this. Yeah, they got 9,000 men. We've got like 28,000. What the hell? Let's do it. Let's roll the dice. Worst case scenario, we fall back to Aden. But we even though our forces are quite disorganized, I think we've probably got the muscle to kind of clear the ground there and push them back. They might disengage and break off anyway. But so that's it for kind of rounds of combat, really. As you can imagine, no one has been congratulated or is promotable in that round, or I wouldn't have thought so anyway. Let's check our economy. 64 units are good for just under 220 private capital, exporting 44 for about 120. That's pretty decent. Happy with that. Let's check our kind of exports, and yeah, that's decent enough. Putting up a nice windfall of textiles now. As you can see, we've got a lot of kind of commodities sitting in our economy that we're struggling to kind of shift. They will start shifting over time, but you get kind of commodity bubbles as well, where a particular commodity starts selling en masse, and then it suddenly stops. Kind of within the kind of larger boom and bust mechanism of the kind of capitalism, you have that sort of bubbles focused around particular kind of commodities, where all of a sudden, you might have like a huge stockpile of textiles or something like this, and then you can't possibly produce enough to sell to everyone. Everyone suddenly really needs to get access to this commodity. But okay, it looks like Austrian national morale is down anyway, not on the back of that battle, I wouldn't have thought. Probably from the effect of the Italians, maybe the loss of Split also. They're down to 99, but we're at 81. That is worrying, so we do need to do something to kind of significantly bolster national morale. Within the next month or so, and yeah, securing central Hungary will kind of do that. I mean, if we took Vienna, then national morale would completely sink, almost instantaneously. But we'll recover the situation, and we'll consider conducting a kind of campaign in the spring and summer into Hungary. But we need to obviously take some on it. This is the tough nut to crack here. We're crossing a river, so yeah, we need to be able to, in a position to destroy that force. That was a pretty able defense. That Austrian force is a pretty serious force. They've got 3 reserve divisions, 3 army corps. Lots of mixed forces, but a more than capable Austrian force there. So looks like they have a reserve. They've got a force up here as well, a couple of army corps. So hopefully that won't. Where is that? Yeah, that's based in Zagreb. yeah, we need to really kind of secure Bosnia for the time being and recover our forces, get some replacements squared away and stuff. Okay, that's it. That's the economy sorted out. Anyway, that's the admin done. Just check out assets balance. Still 3% inflation, nearly 6,000 assets. And all demands are being met. Right, going to put you on pause, past turn, and we'll be in early March, and hopefully there isn't no emergency suddenly develops out of this. I can't see how the Austrians are in a position to really exploit this very much. But yeah, the hope is they don't try and make some kind of crazy push for Bosnia. If they do, we will have the forces in place fairly quickly to deal with it. But yeah, okay. See you in early March. Sorry, late February. Okay, so welcome back. And yeah, another tough round. It looks like our forces struggled to sort of retract themselves from Slavonian. We engaged in another large battle. This time it looks like it was with Hussein Afni's force, and it was a defeat, although it was much more even Stevens in the greater scheme of things. We suffered 42,000 casualties, inflicted 40, but they lost 184 guns. Furthermore, I don't know where von Mitra's force has gone. It looks like it's kind of pulled. It was set to engage and then pulled out. That might be a portion of it under Liechtenstein there. But we want to move our forces back. They've suffered heavy losses. It now looks like Hussein Avni is unsupplied. We've set them to evade combat, to retreat if engaged, passive posture, and to do everything they can to get back to Sava this turn. But yeah, a messy old time. Omar is back. He was in Sarajevo. Let's have a quick look at Abdi Pasha. Yeah, we're going to keep him inside the town of Sarajevo. I don't think there's any immediate risk. And we're going to promote Abdi Pasha. It's something that's been an option for some time now. But I've chosen not to do it. But I'm starting to look at Abdi Pasha or Abdul Karim Nadir as someone that might very well be replaceable as a 3-star general. Okay, so promotion agreed. And yeah, we'll keep this force inside Sarajevo for the time being, just to accelerate its cohesion and morale reorganization. Hopefully, these boys, when they get back into Sava, will be in a position to kind of experience some kind of replacements, organizational cohesion, and this sort of thing. We're going to break up with a couple of supply trains, and we're going to attach that supply train to Hussein Avni's force. Really, 16 days? You've got to be joking me. Alright. But yeah, tough round. Very tough round. We'll try to force march that column. Okay. Irritating as well, another Austrian brigade has kind of broken through to Janina, because we've moved our Bashi bazooks out to try and engage it. These areas are now vulnerable to being taken. And, heavy rainfall is making movement between these locations quite difficult and slow. So, not good. I think for the time being we'll just keep our forces in place as they are, whereas he's in Kosovo. We'll keep those forces in place for the time being, and I think what we'll look to do is to release the cavalry division that we've just completed. We're going to use some riverine points to move that to Salonika, and then from Salonika, 20 days. Why would it take 20 days? Oh, okay, because of the weather, right? Fine. So we just moved to Salonika for the time being, and that will secure us a bit of security for this small force. We want to eventually close it and deal with that, so it doesn't cause too much disruption in the rear. So anyway, yeah, really disappointing start to the year. It was going really well. I mean, the operation in kind of stages. We got force concentration really quickly. Second phase was really securing the Zvornik Gap, which we did. Third phase was to kind of secure Sarajevo, which we did, and all of these the last two stages were achieved through really successful pitched battles. It's probably fair to say that the next stage, kind of exploiting that, has not come off at all, and has resulted in pretty calamitous defeat. These forces will recover, but what we are going to obviously have to look at doing is significantly expand the strategic reserve. So what have we got? 30 at the moment. How many officers have we got? 19. Okay, that's 5. Yeah, so we'll expand that by 5. Yeah, 5 elements for the time being. What have we got militia-wise? Militia were good. Okay, that's fine for now. We'll stick some private capital towards some more merchants. And we'll consistently do that, look to expand the reserve a little bit, just so we can kind of get some fresh kind of troops flooded into these army corps that have suffered significant damage. Yeah, in the last sort of month or so. In Sana, successful though. The colonial engagement was really good. Inflicted 3,000 casualties, took 1,200 prisoners to a loss of just under 3,000 of our own. Their force is still there, but it's whittled down sufficiently that I feel comfortable moving again. And the cavalry division, furthermore, has been able to reorganize. So we're going to conduct another attack. It looks like they're trying to actually hold their ground. They really fancy pitched battles now, more and more, and that's absolutely welcome. Because that provides us with an opportunity to kind of destroy their forces wholesale. Again, we're going to try and move and whittle down this force in Palestine. Let's have a look at Libya. No kind of problems in Libya. And let's just make sure that the raiding fleet got back okay, and the main Imperial fleet is back also. And that'll require a bit of time to kind of get some supplies and reorganize itself. So, yeah, tough start to the year. That was, unexpected. It's a funny game like that. You know, the early ease of operations were unexpected. I thought the Austrians were going to be much tougher, much more aggressive. They were very slow on the mark. They really dropped the ball in terms of their rather clumsy invasion of kind of the Balkans, really. I mean, obviously, Bosnia was completely uncontested, but we were able to very, very quickly kind of deal them some serious defeats, and some really significant defeat in both Zvornik. The 3 battles of Zvornik were all really convincing defeats, and then also at Sarajevo. But yeah, they conducted a really successful defense, really, of southern Hungary, exploiting this river line really, really well. And yeah, we've paid for that in blood, and it's going to take us a bit of time now to recover from that. But the good thing, I suppose, is the fact that things haven't gone well in Italy, the fact that Piedmont, Sardinia are still very much in the game. It looks like they're continuing to besiege Verona, means that we should have a bit of a breathing space. I mean, the fact that for example, we abandoned Dalmatia completely, and the Austrians haven't really secured it, suggests that they do have fairly limited forces at their disposal, and I don't know where. Is it Mitrovic, I think his name is? I can't remember now. Let's have a look. Yeah, von Mitrovic. I don't know where his force has gone. So, God knows. It inflicted a fairly hefty defeat on us, and then obviously pulled out. It was set to pull out and move somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to leave the recording there. Past turn, the next recording will pick up in early March. And yeah, we'll see. We'll go from there, and it's going to be sort of it's a bruising round, a really, really bruising round. It's going to be a case of kind of licking our wounds, getting some replacements in place, getting our forces back up to scratch. That will have shaken up some of our commanders, and the key thing, of course, I think, is next time. Omar Pasha remains. I say unfortunately, it's good to have a really, really good general, obviously, but it's still clear that he is instrumental in terms of us winning large pitch battles. That's absolutely clear. If 2 generals, outnumbering an Austrian force 2-1, would got that much of a hiding, and the fact that Omar Pasha has, all of the offensives so far have been conducted by Omar Pasha and have been overwhelmingly successful, leads me to think that he's still. He's going to still have to be central, really, to any strategy that we plan to use his kind of skill sets. But yeah, we'll leave it there, and pick up in early March 1856. And see you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video.